Nobody wants to be called Nazis. It's very inflammatory. But if you don't want to be called Nazis, stop doing.
You're called an anti-Semite. You've been called an anti-Semite more than anyone else's table.
Yeah.
And people will sit there and no, by me, I never called you an anti-Semite. Okay. I mean, I'm not sitting here saying
I'm a supporter of the Palestinians. So I'm used to it.
Yeah, well, I hope your beeper doesn't go off.
A Monday CNN panel went off the rails after Republican strategist Ryan Kudersky told Mehdi Hassan, a former MSNBC host, "I hope your beeper doesn't go off." Now, that's, of course, a reference to an Israeli attack involving pagers and walkie-talkies that was aimed at Lebanon at the militant group Hezbollah, not Hamas. That was during a discussion over racist remarks made during a rally for former President Donald Trump over the weekend. That rally was rightly compared to a Nazi rally. Same themes, anti-immigration, xenophobia, going after your political enemies. The only difference is that the anti-Semitism was a bit more hidden this time. You know, it's still there, though, because the Great Replacement talk, the Great Replacement theory is not really a theory. They call it a theory. But it's basically a conspiracy that claims that Jewish people, like George Soros, is trying to engineer a takeover of America by bussing in immigrants to vote for Democrats. Okay, so same old anti-Semitism repackaged, all right, for a modern audience. And so it's white nationalist, neo-Nazi rhetoric, and it should be called out as such. And thankfully, it is. I mean, Mehdi Hassan is pretty good at calling it out. Now, that said, if you do so and you happen to support Palestinians, so far against right-wing government of Israel head Benjamin Netanyahu, well, then you're the real anti-Semite. That's right. And Republicans will literally call you a terrorist and hope that you die.
The thing is that
you just say I should die?
You should not.
No,
did you just say I should be killed?
No, I did not say that. No, I did not say that.
Hold on.
Did you just say I should be killed on live TV?
I said I hope
Guys,
you don't.
let me just stop.
You said you hope my beeper doesn't go
Because you sound
Stop
big
that
supporter
right now.
of the Palestinians.
of Hamas.
Guys, let me
I said
stop.
Palestinians.
Are you?
Am I what? No, of course I'm not.
Palestinians are
Then
not.
I apologize.
Are you a
Ryan.
racist,
Then I
violent
apologize.
person
Then I
inciting
apologize.
violence against me?
Ryan.
That's disgusting.
That is completely.
No, I apologize.
That
Good
is
job, CNN.
completely
Let's have first
out
block
of
say the
pocket.
Muslim guy
You
should
know
be
that.
blown
Then I
up
apologize.
on
Then I
TV.
apologize.
Don't
Then I
say then I
Wow.
apologize. You literally.
I thought you said
accused
Hamas.
him.
I
You didn't think I said
No.
Hamas.
No,
I
you
said I
didn't.
supported
Yes, I did.
Palestinian
Yes, I
rights.
did.
Why? Because when you hear
What's funny
Palestinian,
is
you
Rudy
hear Hamas.
Giuliani said this
No,
yesterday,
because-
so you're a great guest to
Listen.
be here
All
to
right,
defend
I
Rudy
told
Giuliani.
myself
Give me
I
one-
wasn't going to
give me-
entertain
give me one
nonsense
second.
today, and so at this point,
This is what we're in
I
now.
can't
This
do
is America in
Here's what I
2024.
will say.
That was insane to watch, okay? Now, for one, it shows you how dumb people in the right wing actually are, okay? Hamas, Hezbollah, yeah, they're the same thing. No, they're not. They're completely different groups, okay? But, again, to the far right, they're all the same. Oh, Palestinians, Hamas, Hezbollah, brown people in the Middle East, they're all terrorists. All the same. Kind of reminds me of when, right-wingers would mistakenly attack Sikhs and claim that they're Muslims. Muslims are not Sikhs. Sikhs are not Muslims. Okay, they're different. Okay, and look, nobody ever accused racists of being smart. Okay, because they're not. But it's also the same shit, by the way, that they tried to do with Rashida Tlaib. Remember that comic of her checking her pager or having it explode right next to her on a. I mean, it's horrible. It's horrible. Okay. This is what happens when you dehumanize people, okay? Dehumanizing language has been used against Palestinians. And by the way, the Jewish people were also dehumanized back during the time of the Nazis. That's how they were able to get away, well, not get away, but they were able to perpetuate the Holocaust by dehumanizing the Jewish people so much that you had people that, they're obviously not humans, so it's okay if we kill them, if we murder 6 million of them. No, it's not. It's not okay. They're human beings. I mean, it's Palestinians, though, that have been dehumanized, and it's Muslims that have been dehumanized since 9/11, and so it's just been horrible thing after horrible thing. Again, for Donald Trump, who tried to do a Muslim ban. Okay, trust me, if Muslims wanted us dead, we'd all be dead, because there are a lot of them. I believe it's the second largest religion in the world. Okay, and yet many Muslims, lovely people, don't want us dead. It's just the extremists, and there are extremists that do. And guess what? There's extremists of pretty much every group. I mean, the right wing always gets mad when you point out Christian extremists, but they absolutely exist as well. And they're a small minority of Christians. So, but again, dehumanizing, right? This language. Now, I do want to say good on Abby Phillip for kicking that guy off the panel, all right? That said, why was he there in the first place? Okay, there's a very interesting thread here about how people like that end up on these panels after all, in the first place. Matthew Sheffield, who used to be a producer on the Hills Rising show, said, hey, look, I was in charge of, booking guests, okay? Or checking out the book guests. And, well, turns out it's kind of hard to find Republicans because they're all nuts. Quote, frequently my colleagues would book right-wing commentators, and as someone who'd come out of conservative media, I often had to review them before they were put on air. Uh-oh. More than a few times, people who were alt-right activists were booked before I removed them. Other times, we couldn't find anyone who actually was qualified to talk about the news of the day in a non-frothing manner. We had people who offered who had made racist remarks, people who had stalked women, etc. The Republican media, meanwhile, made zero attempts at balance. We also had several commentators who expressed Christian supremacist ideas. And by the way, that's who this guy is. He is a Christian supremacist, just to let you know. Which meant, of course, that they couldn't possibly add anything useful on Israel or Islam. This is what happened to the very long-suffering Abby Phillip tonight. The biggest beneficiaries of affirmative action in media are Republican commentators. Oh, would you look at that? Basically, cable news, CNN, is DEI for Republicans because they are not qualified to talk about these issues and oftentimes just end up saying racist crap. Greatest example of that right here, right now, or at least the latest example. Now, Sheffield continues by saying, quote, the MSM are desperate to find anyone who can engage in civil dialogue without filibustering or collapsing into bigoted rants. This is why you often see the same Republicans everywhere. Republican elites have a huge quality problem on their side, but they don't care to do anything about it. That's because they realize that engaging in informational hygiene would shrink their very unstable coalition. They've chosen extremism over centrism and never get called on it. Well, because if they were called on it, then there would never be a Republican on the air. Either they wouldn't show up, or people would be like, I can't book this person because they're racist. So what are you going to do? I mean, it goes back to...
The Republican Party's racist.
What are we going to do? What are we going to do? So now look, here's the thing though. The centrism issue, right? They've chosen extremism over centrism. And that's talking about the Republican elites, right? The centrism argument is interesting to me because what happens to the center when Republicans continue to go further to the right? The center also goes to the right. In order to be in the center, you have to be in the middle, right? And so if one side goes that way, or even the other side goes that way, then where's the middle going to go? In our case, in America, it goes to the right. To the right. Now, that said, where's the... and by the way, the center also, in order to justify that position, has to then cast both sides as extreme. Oh, well, we've got the extreme right over here, which openly fascist, right? But yeah, well, we've also got the extreme left. What's the extreme left? Well, I don't know. What is the extreme left? Wanting healthcare for everybody? That doesn't seem very extreme. What about a federal jobs guarantee? That doesn't seem extreme, right? Police reform? Not really extreme. In fact, a lot of people are in favor of police reform. Okay. How about giving homes to homeless people? Oh, it's extremism. Oftentimes, there are people that have to invent positions on the left that people don't actually have, or massively misconstrue what those positions actually are. Like, oh, did you know the left wants to let all the prisoners out of prisons? Oh, you mean you're talking about prison abolition, which actually isn't that? It's actually setting up systems where, yes, prisoners will be rehabilitated so that they can actually rejoin society and to not have people, get locked up for their life over like drug crimes or things like that, non-violent stuff. Really? I mean, again, the whole discussion about abolition and police reform or defund the police, it drives me absolutely crazy. Defund the police doesn't mean not have police. It means have different social services outside so that you can have, for example, if somebody's having a mental health crisis, to not send police to their house who are going to end up shooting them or their dog, but instead have like people on hand that are specially trained to deal with mental health emergencies. Because you have people who work in, for example, adult foster care homes, right? That deal with people that have mental issues, mental breakdowns, mental outbursts all the time, okay? They're not allowed to shoot those people, and yet they're able to get those people to calm down, to de-escalate without having to, because if you put your hands on these patients, essentially, you're going to get fired. And again, a lot of these home healthcare workers, and not just home healthcare workers, but again, people in more of an institutionalized setting, of adult foster care home workers, they deal with violent outbursts, they deal with sexual harassment and sometimes assault. Okay. And again, they put their hands on a patient, they're fired. That's it. And so police don't really have much of an excuse to do what they're doing with the disabled community, people with mental illness. All right. And so, yeah, that makes sense that, police shouldn't be allowed to deal with mental illness in a way that people who deal with mental illness every day in these more institutionalized settings would not be able to. Why do police get carte blanche to shoot people for having a mental episode? It's insanity. All right. And that's, again, partly what about defund the police actually is. But anyway, I know it's an extreme left position. No. What's extreme here is on the right saying that immigrants should be put into literal camps. That was an idea that was floated. Deporting people who are American citizens, by the way, who are not loyal to Donald Trump. I mean, just stuff that's absolutely extreme and extremely illegal. Where's the center there? You can't find a center when one side is so far off the rails, they're into fascism, and another side is like, I don't know, maybe we should feed people that are hungry. Where's the center? These are not equal and valid ideas. And by the way, Sheffield, and I wasn't criticizing him for in that rant, by the way. He just says, like, we got to stop letting the right wing, the far right, get away with this. And I agree. The left is nowhere near these people, right? And so I get tired of the people who think the left is dangerous. How? The left has no power. And by the way, the left really doesn't get along with other members of the left. So, in reality, look, there's only one danger here in this country right now, and that is the far right. And yet, media has done a fantastic job of not only sanitizing them, but elevating them and treating their ideas as if they're on an equal ground. They're not. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon in order to get notified whenever a new video is released. And if you want to support independent, progressive media through this difficult time where it seems like everybody is shutting down, you can become a member on our YouTube page, you can become a subscriber on Facebook, or you can go to my Patreon. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. Thank you.